Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Friday, April 26, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is the 9 of Swords in its reversal. We love to see this card. I know, guys, I know the energy over the last few days, let's be honest, weeks, has been very intense, but we've got a lot of this like easement that's coming in. It's going to feel like that exhaustive sigh of relief, right? We're closing out. Mercury retrograde is finished. We've got the Scorpio full moon has happened. We're still experiencing some of that, but it's getting a little bit energetically easier. We've also finished up this eclipse season. So a lot of this is going to feel like a little bit of that easement point, being able to breathe that energetic sigh of fresh air right now, right? And a lot of that also has to do with a bit of that like energetic catharsis that we see coming into play. It is having a different impact depending on where you are on the frequencies, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine, feminine energy. The difference, and it's very intriguing, I'm going to bring this up again, the oppositional point between what's happening for the energy right now coming into the divine union versus the energy at the heart of it, doing like reversed work right now. Why? Because the energy coming into divine union, hitting all those sensitive areas, finding those new vulnerabilities in the other, building into the heart of intimacy by having these kind of intentional, like these discoveries of past previous wounds, the things that we don't typically show others. What is happening for the energy coming into divine union right now? The discovery, the understanding of those. It's allowing for that pathwork of recognizing and being able to navigate around those sensitivities. And that's that moment that is requiring almost that energetic step back, if you will, right? What happens when someone says, I energetically recognize that you've got a wound there that I didn't necessarily create? Not letting yourself get triggered or taking it energetically personally when someone comes into that space is all about the gift of being able to articulate through it instead of subjecting another to the energetic wounds we carry. Masculine and feminine energy doing that work, coming into that point of seeing and feeling the sensitive nature through which someone holds your own energetic wounds from a place of compassion and delicacy that feels like falling deeper into the heart of intimacy, because that is that energetic feeling of being safe, of feeling secure, of seeing and recognizing it's not the fact that you have to have your energetic armor up all the time. It's that observational point in recognizing and identifying that you can take your armor down and still be energetically protected. That is that moment that feels like that wash of energetic relief for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. While as the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, the ability to touch something that is energetically sensitive, the ability to navigate old wounds, that moment that feels like the energetic heart of compassion being, once you build that trust with another, that you can forge through and over something and be able to navigate and touch something that someone else cannot touch. That is the amplification right now of compassion for the energy that's in the heart of the divine union frequency, because that is that moment that feels like the amplification of the deepening of an energetic connection through the ability to navigate that sense of sensitivity to such an extent that you wouldn't typically or normally be able to navigate and address something. So we see even now that these energies, while coming into the divine union, doing very different things. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is the energetic catharsis points that's reached when we're able to look back at the past and feel like we've taken an energetic lesson that we can carry forward with us, that allows us to take something that may have felt like it was energetically painful and transform it into something that is energetically positive. For feminine, that ability to take that negativity, to take any of that bitterness, to take any of that energetic resentment that may often happen when we take something that we were carrying forth within us and externalizing it from without. Not letting that be a moment that turns the feminine energy's heart bitter, but instead turning it into something that feels like it is energetically positive and productive. That's a lot of the feminine energy Learning the ability of taking what may have felt like an energetic boundary and turning it into an energetic standard. Taking something that feels like you've built a wound against it, right? A boundary articulates saying that there's a wound here that you're trying to protect. Transforming that into that sense of understanding one's own standards. Like that's that moment that the feminine energy is feeling, having the same modality, but coming into connection with the higher version of self that allows that to feel not like something that is coming from a place of hurt, but coming from a place of energetic empowerment. So we see even now that is a moment for feminine of feeling some kind of energetic easement, because that doesn't mean that the feminine is feeling that sense. It's not that the sense of pain is there anymore, but it is that transforming of it into that energetic fire, that positivity, that active energetic creation that allows the feminine to feel confidence as they proceed forward on their path. While for masculine, that same ability, looking back, potentially feeling any energetic regret, not letting yourself hold on to the regret, not letting it pin you back into the past, but taking that sadness, taking that frustration, recognizing the gift of being able to look back at the self and have a new shift in priority, almost recognizing that if you had a new shift of priority, you aren't the same person. You're effectively transformed. You're coming into your higher version of self. So for masculine, that feeling of being able to empower upon something that you may have been holding energetic regret on, letting that motivate you forward right now, that is also taking something that feels like an energetic wound and moving it into something that feels more like an activation, moving more into a state of feeling like that sense of energetic confidence. Because that, for both masculine and feminine in separation now, this is going through that process of energetic grieving, but not letting it build that sense of frustration in you. It's almost creating that sense of energetic empowerment. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here 4 of Cups in its reversal. This is the amplification in relationality to choice right now across all of the channels, masculine and feminine in separation. What happens when you're able to take something that feels like it was holding a space of grief or loss, but instead just letting it be that moment that amplifies, that activates, that encourages you forward? That is that moment that feels like new opportunities, new perspectives, looking at something in a new way. That can be a lot of that energetic shift that is helping you even now build that sense in terms of how to proceed forward from this point. Because this is a changing how you're either approaching something energetically or what you're energetically looking for. While for masculine and feminine, for feminine, that is that moment that feels like the amplification of choice in relationality to experiences or circumstances wherein feminine is utilizing this as a pathwork of discernment going forward. If these are spaces or places wherein feminine is recognizing or realizing or feeling like a lot of their pathwork in the past was not in relationality to feminine wanting something different, feminine doesn't feel like their energetic priorities have changed, but rather feminine being more inquisitive and caring a lot on making sure that they feel like the priorities are in alignment with the masculine, that they're moving forward with at this time. This is the feminine feeling that activation point, because that's the feminine holding that energetic standard that I mentioned in relationality to taking a boundary and turning it into a standard. While for masculine energy, this modality of having different priorities is amplifying your own ability of choice. Masculine energy, if you're in this modality, you may be feeling like you are making different energetic choices, because when we change our priorities, our choices immediately change as well. So we see that both of these energies right now doing that path work, potentially even coming back into energetic connection at that moment, because both of these energies are having different perspectives in relationality to what they're seeking and what they're finding. Masculine and feminine energy that's coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is that modality that, again, if these are energies that are moving deeper into the heart of the divine union frequency, and instead of coming into a state or space of carrying the wounds from the past, allowing yourself to be reactive, if instead you are articulating upon them, you are utilizing your powers of expression, you're speaking about the places that trigger you, instead of letting someone, instead of subjecting another to a place that you are energetically triggered. If you're utilizing that pathwork of being able to again, speak on something instead of reacting to something. This is what's allowing a lot of the energy right now to feel, even now coming into the divine union frequency, that reaffirmation in relationality to what you're doing and how and who you're moving forward with, to a certain extent. Because we see even now that for a lot of that energy, the ability, like, what does this energy keep seeing to one another as they continue to move into divine union frequency? You make something energetically easy, right? What do we mean when we say we make something energetically easy? Does that mean someone is energetically easy? No, it means that out of the possibility of choices in relationality to reactivity, you recognize and you trust the judgment and choice of another, always to allow for that pathwork of energetic easement. So we see even now, for a lot of the energy experiencing this, even if there was something here that we saw that did create a triggering situation over the last few days, the ability to immediately facilitate energetic change around that, coming into a place of, instead of reactivity, curiosity, understanding, and discovery. Like, that is that moment that reaffirms the commitment of a lot of this energy that's moving forward in this way, because it's that moment of feeling the energetic possibilities that open when you take new approaches and when you're committed to doing so together. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, this ability to energetically navigate something that may have felt like a sensitive area in the past, something that felt like you couldn't discuss it, something felt like it was always an energetic boundary, and suddenly you're feeling that easement point, that comfortability, if you will. That is what's amplifying a lot of the energy, even in the heart of the divine union frequency, feeling a deepening of energetic intimacy. Because even in these moments where you may be feeling like you know someone deeply, to be able to navigate something in a way that you can go even deeper by touching or moving into that place of sensitivity that you know others can't necessarily pursue. That is where we see, to a certain extent, that energetic expansion point, because that's a lot of the energy coming into even deeper understanding of the other by being able to navigate those pathways that others aren't necessarily able to traverse and travel together. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is the Hermit in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy that's in the heart of the divine union frequency. That's the only, this is the thing that even now, it does feel a little energetically sensitive. It does feel, to a certain extent, like that delicateness, right? Because these are spaces or places where it's not easy to have conversations of this nature. It's not easy to build upon moments like this. We even see this right now. These are moments that even now, they feel a little unexplored, right? Because these are moments, I need to stress, if these are energies that are moving deeper into the heart of intimacy, right? And these are old wounds that are being carried, potentially things that only you within the self have navigated and experienced before. It can feel very strange to navigate those territories, because it's almost that moment that you're like bringing someone into a space or place where no one has ever been before, right? It's a little, I told you, it's like a little bit of that spelunking. So we see even now that what are those energies providing each other in that context, that sense of not knowing how one might energetically respond and react to things like that. You know, even now, being able to navigate or mitigate that point of energetic uncertainty to a certain extent, that is what is allowing the energy to be able to facilitate that level or degree of clarity, because that's that moment that it's almost like you hear that I don't know, but you know that that I don't know is authentic, because it's someone saying, I don't know, I've never energetically moved forward in this way before. I've never built into the heart of this intimacy before with another. So that's, I told you, that care and like that delicateness that we have and navigate in touching something energetically or spiritually that we haven't before, to almost see and recognize how that feels, right? Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. That's the opposite. That's not what's happening here. That is not what's happening here, because what we're seeing what's happening here is the opposite. That's a no touchy zone, right? That's potentially uncovering those energetic moments within the other. When we're first entering deeper into the heart of intimacy, being able to recognize those places and spaces and being like, I understand that there's something that you've shown me that I didn't know was there that I need to give a little bit of a wide berth to. What is that energy navigating? They're not forgetting about those moments. They're almost putting an energetic pin in them, right? Being like, we should energetically address that. That's something that we should come back to. That's something that we should energetically pursue when the time is right, right? Because that's almost the moment of someone seeing someone bringing something into the divine union that looks almost like a wound, right? Being like, what's that? Be like, it's nothing. I've had it for a while. I've had it for a long time. It's just, you don't touch, like, it's a little sensitive, right? That's the energy saying, okay, but maybe at another point we'll be able to address that. Because that ability of, again, navigating through and using that conscientiousness on understanding not only the fact that someone has an energetic wound, but almost moving towards them saying, how would you like to navigate that? Like, that ability is that moment of energetic distance and conscientiousness is what's reaffirming for a lot of the energy, the ability to move forward into a deepening connection, because it's almost the sensitivity that's given before something becomes a trigger that almost amplifies the sense of like being very mindful about how one needs to address and manage it, right? Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is a lot of that energy in separation. Feeling, this is a lot of energy just making, like, this is like spring fever here for energy in separation right now, because I just see a lot of the energy in separation getting out there today, making new energetic connections, making new energetic breakthroughs. Feminine is now in that moment, right? What do we see here? We've got feminine energy feeling the energetic relief. They're able to release grief right now. They're ready to make choices. They feel that sense of the boundaries becoming standards and build that sense of excitement in terms of moving forward right now. And you're feeling energetically restless. You're not feeling like you want to necessarily be alone right now. You're feeling that sense of like the hermit in its reversal of kind of like wanting to get out there, wanting to do things, like recognizing that solitude is good. But again, too much solitude is also like too much of a good thing. So we see even now that there's a lot of that feminine energy, feeling that sense of energetic excitement to move back out into the world to a certain extent. While for masculine energy right now in separation, a lot of the masculine energy here, this is that modality that we're effectively seeing to a certain extent that feels like that amplification in relationality to your own path work. This is masculine in separation, having the same exact energetic moment, just looking at something, feeling that energetic excitement coming into play, feeling that sense or desire of moving out into the world. If you're able to take that grief and transmute it into something that feels like it is activating, that is a lot of the masculine energy, feeling the energetic excitement as they move forward on this journey. So both of these energies in separation, feeling the same thing right now, which could lead to a lot of new connections, particularly over this weekend. Fourth card, again, this is masculine energy, building those connection points or building those restorational points. So we see either way, this is all about the masculine energy, feeling that energetic excitement to do so. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here, I'm not surprised to see this. This is the Mercury retrograde going direct. There's a lot of that, there's a lot of that energetic excitement coming into play. Just really wanting to like move things forward right now. I'm not surprised. This is that slingshot. Remember I told you we had that like slingshot energy? Well, we had the Scorpio full moon, and then amplified with the Mercury retrograde. So we see even now, like a lot of that energy, just utilizing this now as a moment to really move forward. Masculine and feminine, even in separation right now, we see that that's feeling like a lot of that, that wash of energetic relief that leads to a lot of activation, things starting to move or pick up and move very more quickly. So this could be a lot of energy right now, putting themselves back out there, looking feminine energy, utilizing that sense of setting energetic standards that is almost building that sense of energetic excitement as you proceed forward from this point. While for masculine, that sense of being able to find the path and purpose potentially in looking at something from the past with regret, but then amplifying and letting that be that motivational aspect that helps you really steer and focus your energy forward right now. These are the energies that are effectively feeling that full weight and tilt of excitement that is amplifying a lot of that energetic path forward. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. A lot of that energy coming into divine union, more so working in that space or place of feeling the easement or the certainty in relationality to what you're building towards at this time. Because what did we see was happening for a lot of the energy coming into divine union at this time. There may have been moments of feeling a little bit like that honeymoon period was over, potentially even feeling those moments of some energetic triggers being hit, right? What is happening in those moments and in those modalities right now? We're effectively seeing that for a lot of that energy, seeing how quickly you can recover from something, right? Almost feeling that sense, especially if you didn't come into that space of reactivity. If you didn't come into that space or place of like having that become like letting that reactivity move you like out of alignment, or coming into that state or space of energetically feeling to a certain extent that sense of what you may have experienced from the past, right? Feeling and finding those energetic wounds in the other, but then having someone navigate them with a sense of conscientiousness, care, facilitating that immediate care towards it, potentially even by putting some energetic distance there. That is the energy that effectively feels that sense of certainty, because that is the energy that feels like that moment, that feels like the alignment of saying to someone, you make something energetically easy. But when we say you make something energetically easy, what we're really saying is, I know that you make the choices through which something is always moving into a point of easement, because they are the same choices that I would make as well, right? That's the feeling of coming into an energetic alignment. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is in the heart of divine union frequency, this moment or modality of potentially navigating or feeling those sensitivity spaces, that's a little bit more touch and go, right? Because we see even now that for a lot of the energy navigating those circumstances and situations in the heart of the divine union frequency, that ability to like recognize or feel or have that sensitive discussion or move into that sensitive space, it may feel a little foreign, it may feel a little unknown, because it may be feeling like, again, if these are areas or situations or circumstances wherein you don't typically let someone in, it may feel a little uncertain as you do so. But what are these energies doing even at the heart of that as they continue forward? They're being extremely energetically mindful about that circumstance and situation to be able to build that sense of like discernment in not kind of like, again, kind of going in towards something that feels like it is delicate, but not crossing, like, but not moving beyond what feels like someone is building into that energetic comfort point. So we see even now that this is a little bit more delicate for the heart energy at the heart of the divine union frequency. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is Page of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. You know, one of the difficulties and one of the hurdles that we're seeing that's happening right now for a lot of the energy in the heart of this frequency is navigating and dealing with a lot of inner child wounds. I told you, some of these wounds are very old. Some of these wounds have been there for quite some time. Some of these wounds are very triggering. We see even now there's a lot of energetic triggers that could potentially be reached, because a lot of this, I told you, when we recognize the energetic wound in another, the immediate thing we have to recognize and say, how far back does that go? Like, where did that come from? And so we see even now that a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency doing this work, being able to look at something and recognize and ask oneself and say, like, where is the source of something? Like that ability to do so within, or that ability to do so being facilitated without. That's a lot of that moment that feels like it's heavy. It feels like a lot of energetic unpacking, but it's a type of energetic unpacking that leads to a lot of understanding of the self. But we have to be very mindful when we move into these spaces and places, because it can also create that moment of the unhealed inner child coming forward, the unhealed inner child building that sense of reactivity. So we see even now, like a lot of that moment, it feels like heavy stuff, because there could be doubts and fears rising to the surface, that again, being able to observe them and not be in that state or space of reactivity, that's what helps facilitate the ability to energetically heal something. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union frequency, the observational point of potentially recognizing and identifying the old wounds of the other, building into the heart of sensitivity, seeing something that you don't typically see. That is the gift of the energy that is moving into the divine union frequency, that is feeling that valuation point, in feeling that sense of understanding and seeing, like when we come into anything, it's not like we're ever perfectly healed. None of us are energetically perfect. But what are these energies doing right now, even when they have those moments of feeling energetically triggered? And they say to one another, I energetically trust your judgment. You make something energetically easy. That's a moment of someone saying to the other effectively, I see that you know your unhealed inner child. You've done enough work that it's not the fact that you've energetically healed them perfectly, but you know them enough that you don't let that energy, you don't let that wound speak for you. You don't speak from that wound. You don't speak from that hurt. You observe it. You regulate it when it arrives, and then you can continue forward through it rather like easily. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy that recognizes and identifies that in the other, that is that moment that feels like, again, that point of saying like, I see your wounds, but I also see that you see your wounds as well. And you work very fastidiously not to harm, like not to let those wounds inadvertently harm those around you by doing that work of the self first and foremost. Masculine and feminine energy coming into that are in the in separation right now. This is a lot of the energy moving forward from this point while carrying some of those energetic wounds from the past, right? Because if this is the feminine energy that is feeling some of that, the difference here is this is the feminine energy that's utilizing a lot of energetic discernment in relationality to being very, I want to say, like discerning in relationality to who they move forward with. Even now, this is feminine energy that's feeling that sense or that desire to move into that space or place of building new partnerships with masculine. Feminine energy is looking for that masculine energy that has that sense of intentionality of purpose, has that sense of being able to articulate what it is that they aspire and desire from the feminine. And feminine is effectively looking at anything prior to that point that they've experienced, almost like the energy of masculine being in their unhealed inner child, which is also what's helping a lot of the feminine energy move forward right now by releasing a lot of that energetic grief, because that's a feminine energy that's almost choosing to look towards the masculine that was in that modality. If that was masculine that did not know what they want, or they could not communicate what they wanted, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Feminine's almost just looking at them from the perspective of an unhealed inner child that is expressing itself, that is almost like being allowed to take the energetic wheel, if you will. Because those are the behaviors of an unhealed inner child. An unhealed inner child does not know necessarily what they want. They're just moving into a space or place where they just have a need that needs to be fulfilled, right? An unspeakable need. An unhealed inner child doesn't have a moment of being able to control their reactivity points, right? So that's why the feminine energy is almost looking towards the masculine for embodying these qualities, because a masculine energy that's able to speak forward and take the confidence and articulate what it is that they aspire and desire from feminine, from a place of authenticity and intentionality, then that's a feminine energy that doesn't say that the masculine has to be perfect, but the masculine's already gone through enough of the process of healing the inner child that they are able to facilitate through their own pathwork of fear. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is that amplification point of you, again, conquering your own energetic fears, especially and particularly if you're looking back at past versions of self and you're feeling like your energetic priorities have changed. These are moments that you may be feeling like you want to look back at the past version of self and have a lot of notes. But that sense of saying like, oh, I can give that past version of self notes in the present. Like my ability to do so is here. So for a lot of the masculine, being able to do that right now, that is almost a reaffirmation or recommitment on your own pathwork at this time, by being able to ascertain and look at that past version of self, feeling almost some energetic frustration here, but not letting the frustration of the past build that sense of of dejectedness, but just letting it reinforce the person that you wish to become through it, right? Like that's finding yourself through that recognition of what you would do better. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Four of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Hierophant in its reversal. This card may look familiar because this card was actually in its upright yesterday, but in relationality to what we're seeing right now, this makes a lot of sense because for, again, masculine and feminine energy in separation, taking unconventional approaches. What did I tell you is the gift and beauty of the Mercury retrograde periods when we're not spending all this time going, boo, Mercury retrograde, how dare you shake things up. The beauty of the Mercury retrograde periods is effectively that point of recognizing and identifying that sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a groove and a rut, unless things get shaken up a little bit, right? If you fall back into position afterwards, then you know it was a groove. It's something that works that you're continuing forward on. But again, it can be very often that we don't recognize or understand that we're in ruts until we get knocked out of our own processes and cycles. And that's that moment that we're able to find innovations, efficiencies, breakthroughs. Sometimes it takes a little bit of that like loosening, if you will. You got to like stir the pot a little to be able to make sure that everything is moving in the way that it needs to do. That's often what we experience with a lot of this Mercury retrograde energy on top of the eclipse energy, on top of the scorpionic energy that was adding to it. And the interesting thing, the combination of the Mercury retrograde period, so having that point of pulling backwards, looking back at the past with new eyes, the intensity of the eclipse, feeling a lot of the emotional intensity of what you're experiencing now, in combination with the Scorpio full moon of revealing truths within the self that you may not necessarily have seen or experienced. That's like the combination cocktail for unconventional approaches and new understandings and new breakthroughs. Like as long as you're not getting triggered through it. As long as you're not getting triggered through it, then that's that moment that can create that sense of really being able to like find that new path that feels like it is moving in rightness for you. All of these energies right now, seeing and experiencing this on one degree or another. The energy right now in separation, being able to alchemize the pain of the past, not letting it hold you back, not letting yourself get caught in that state or space of energetic grief, but rather channeling it into the possibilities of the present. That is a lot of the energetic unconventionality that's happening right now for a lot of the energy in separation. For feminine, it's potentially going back and utilizing that excitement to move forward towards masculine, but with a new energetic perspective or with a new energetic approach. While for masculine energy, the ability to refocus or feel like you're moving back towards feminine with new priorities and new path of purpose. These are all the breakthroughs or the unconventional approaches that are motivating the excitement of a lot of energy moving forward out of separation. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, a lot of the energy that's coming into divine union right now, this is the energy of, again, if there was something that occurred over the last few days that feels like it was energetically triggering, not letting the trigger become the source of a conflict, not letting it feel like it was creating something that was separating or dividing you, but rather being able to work through it, being able to like navigate through it, being able to be conscientious of each other's triggers and understanding, utilizing curiosity, as opposed to allowing oneself to feel defensive or reactionary. That is what's allowing a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now, to feel that sense of energetic easement, because it's that moment that feels like the amplification point that, you know, that sense of like, it's almost that moment that you recognize that the other is doing that work. And at the same time, it may feel a little energetically triggering because this is a moment that you see that you remember the spaces in the past where that was not so. You're almost remembering, you're feeling the echoes of those moments in the past where having that same thing rise up may have had a very different reactivities point, may have created that moment of frustration. And so it's very karmically healing when you have those moments that you feel that sense of energetic rupture, something that would have created that sense of rupture in the past, but instead it becomes the energetic tie that binds. It almost reaffirms the commitment of the energy as they continue forward into the divine union. While as for the energy at the heart of the divine union right now, a lot of that energetic equivalent right now, seeing and experiencing something, feeling the full breadth of expansion, having that moment of being able to feel like you're moving in a divine union far enough that suddenly the thing that you couldn't touch, the thing that you haven't touched before, is now becoming a moment where you're having that point of discussion. That feels like you're going into this like much deeper healing, because that's almost feeling like the energy of the counterpart is like the exception to the rule, right? Saying, well, there's something here that I would typically feel very like I wouldn't necessarily be able to touch with someone else. I wouldn't be able to talk about with someone else. But with you, I trust. We've built that energetic trust enough that I feel like I'm ready to energetically heal something. That is the unconventional approach, because that is the energy of the divine union that always creates the energetic exception to the rule. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Cups and its reversal in combination with our Hermit card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart. And this is a little bit different for both of these energies. We've been talking a lot about this. The energy right now has been experiencing things in very different ways right now. These energies have been very, very different on how they've been experiencing them. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For masculine energy right now, in the divine union frequency, even now, one of the things that we see, and this is the struggle point between these energies and having to navigate these. Masculine, having these sensitive subjects touched, is something that immediately feels energetically triggering. Why? Because what happens when you start to navigate, what happens when you start to navigate a sensitive energetic subject? You remember that, like, the abandonment wound, like the army that like hides in the closet that comes running out to protect you? It creates that moment of masculine almost like wanting to energetically pull away to a certain extent, right? It creates that moment of masculine, like feeling in the self almost the need or the desire to energetically avoid something, right? And what is the masculine doing right now? Where's the masculine pushing through their own comfort zone? The masculine energy is like navigating through their inner child wound and being like, no, we're not going to avoid something just because it's energetically hard. I'm going to persevere here. I'm not going to retreat into myself at that moment. I'm going to push forward energetically. For feminine, that's that moment of navigating for the emotional aspect, right? Because this is the feminine energy that wants to gush force. They want to be effusive, right? It's that feeling of not wanting to subject the other to your emotions that, again, feels almost like that act of energetic protection. So what are these energies doing right now to be able to navigate this work? They are being very conscientious of their own tendencies or response mechanisms to be able to navigate forward in a way that it's not that, like, almost saying to oneself, like, I'm going to try not to, but it's hard because these energies have never, like, it's like they don't know what to energetically expect because they haven't done it before, right? Especially if these are places that aren't now like always navigated, right? Or haven't been navigated before. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that moment that almost feels a little overwhelming because it's that sense or experience right now that we see that the energy is having coming into divine union of remembering what potentially energetically created those wounds in the first place. And the difference here, I told you, the only difference here, which is requiring a level or degree of mindfulness to make sure that you don't accidentally, inadvertently trigger the other, is how these energies want to carry it. Why? Because the feminine energy has a trigger. They have a blockage point. And what does the feminine energy want to do with it? Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. They want to talk about it. They want to talk about the trigger. They want to talk about the sensitivity point. Masculine, does masculine want to talk about it? No. Masculine does not want to talk about those same things within the self. So recognizing and understanding the fact that you're carrying the same wound, but you have different responses to it. That's that moment that allows for that sense of conscientiousness, because it allows for that mindfulness, not just in what you might need at a moment that you discover a wound, but what someone else is asking for from you that may be different how you yourself may feel what makes it easier to bear it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now for the energy in separation. This is the energy that is motivating forward right now, that's allowing this energy, even in separation. I told you, these energies are almost meeting a convergence point now. We've got a lot of that convergence energy happening here. Why? Because we've got the perfect energetic storm here that's building up. We've got the easement now, the floodgates opening of the retrograde, of Mercury going direct, right? A need to get out of your shell, a need to move forward. Feminine, feeling very like empowered and almost like feeling that sense of being like, I need to get out of here. I need to go do something with this energy, because this is feminine feeling the empowerment point of channeling something that felt like it was an energetic wound and turning it into an energetic standard that they can then apply in the present. Masculine feeling the same exact energetic frequency, but that's that moment of feeling some sense of regret, not letting it hold you down, wanting to move forward and do something with it. That's either creating that pathwork of masculine, building into, again, that sense of rehabilitation, trying to heal with the feminine right now that you recognize that your priorities have changed. Or that's masculine energy that's trying to apply that new energetic lesson forward in relationality to making some kind of deep energetic lesson matter. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hermit in its reversal and our Seven of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Wands, and we love to see this energy here. Masculine and feminine energy that's in separation. This is the feminine energy, like a lot of feminine energy making plans right now, getting out of your shell. This is feminine energy. If there's been a period of like staying more like inwards during this retrograde period, it's done. A lot of this feminine energy is just like ready to roll to a certain extent. And a lot of that feels like that sense or that sensation that we're seeing here of feminine coming into that point or space of, again, and it could, and this could be a moment, I gotta say, for some of the feminine, this is like different modalities that you may be feeling right now. This is either that moment that we're seeing that for some of the feminine energy, it feels like, again, I'm telling you, a lot of this feels like a moment of deep energetic healing for the feminine, because this isn't feminine feeling that like overwhelm. Like even if they're feeling the energetic overwhelm right now, I told you that feeling of like overwhelm, feminine's utilizing it to come into that point of feeling the energetic standard coming into place, like coming into that point of not letting themselves get caught in that moment of feeling overwhelmed. It's almost like just being able to transform it into what feels energetically right. And a lot of that is the feminine energy coming into alignment with that higher version of self. Just asking oneself, what does that look like? What is the shape of that energy? Because that's the feminine energy almost moving in alignment with their highest version of self, that's helping the feminine navigate through anything that feels like that energetic overwhelm, right? That's like the feminine energy, like finding that energetic form that's helping them effectively. That is the sense of self, right? While masculine energy right now in separation, this is that modality that we see that you're energetically going through right now. Again, if these are circumstances or situations where in the masculine, you've been going through that moment of holding some kind of energetic regret, wanting to come through and allow that to be something that helps set your priorities going forward. This is masculine that's either taking that moment now and moving forward towards feminine, utilizing that pathwork of being able to build that sense of restoration with the feminine, or this is masculine energy that is letting that energetic lesson from the past, potentially feeling like your priorities make you feel like there's something that you energetically left behind in the past. You're letting that serve some very valuable path and purpose now in the present, because you're letting it help you manifest forward in what you consider your ideal divine counterpart to be, that's building that sense of excitement as you continue forward on your path. While masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, a lot of the energy coming into divine union, this is that modality of feeling the energetic relief of a counterpart that builds into that same space or place of energetic value as you yourself. Because it's not that these energies are perfect. We see that here. We even see over the last few days, there may have been spaces and places of deep energetic overwhelm occurring. But what are these energies doing in that modality? What do we experience and see is happening here? Well, for masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency, it's not the fact that you're not being energetically triggered. It's not the fact that there aren't those old wounds that are coming up, but you're having that moment of recognizing and seeing both your own process of growth, your own process of healing that allows for new alternatives or new possibilities, all through not letting yourself come into a state of being reactive. Or these are moments that feel like, even at a moment that they may feel energetically triggering to a certain extent, that is due to potentially feeling a trigger that was being hit, but then appreciated, respected. Someone being conscientious of giving that bandwidth or breath to someone that allows for the energy to go into the assessment of self, to really energetically unpack. The only difficulty and hurdle that we're seeing here has to do with the fact that we're recognizing that the feminine energy is more in a place where they want to talk about it. The feminine energy wants to talk about these things. It's not just the fact that the feminine may have felt like there was a sensitive subject that came up and the feminine put some boundaries up. Feminine wants to talk about the boundaries. Feminine wants to unpack the boundaries. While as masculine, being more in that state or space, wanting energetic distance. It doesn't feel like for the masculine, facilitating healing is coming via V, or talking about those boundaries. So we see even now that's the only moment of pathwork here that may feel a little difficult for some of the energy that's moving deeper into the heart of the divine union. It's recognizing that what you want might not necessarily be what another needs. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union right now. This is the energetic equivalent of the opposite. Because these are energies that are effectively trying to have that pathwork there. They're trying to talk about the things that are hard to talk about. They're moving into places that they don't typically do. They're being the exception to each other's rule, all to facilitate healing. And they're recognizing at the same time their own tendency that may interrupt that process. For feminine, that is potentially that need or ability to want to emotionally unpack or talk about something beyond taking an activation point on it. While for masculine, it may be that moment of not wanting to talk about something that is required to talk about prior to taking activation on it. So we see even now, it's the way, I told you, what's the difference between a conflict and an argument? A conflict is two energies that want very different things, and they have very different places that they're trying to bring each other to the other side. An argument is two energies that are energies that want the same thing, and they just got different ways of going about it. So even now in the heart of the frequency, recognizing, feeling that sense of desiring the same, moving on the same path of purpose, but just having different little tweaks on how to do it. That is that moment that even here we see that there's a lot of that care and energy that's being facilitated and being mindful on what the other energy needs, particularly around areas that may feel like they're typically very energetically sensitive. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Pentacles and its reversal in combination with our Page of Wands. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Five of Pentacles in its reversal. This is a lot of healing of the abandonment wound. This is a lot of work to heal the abandonment wound. And look how sensitive this is. Look how incredibly sensitive it is. Because we've got here the combination of the unhealed inner child here in combination with the abandonment wound rising up. But what are these energies doing? Are they reacting to these? No. They're acknowledging them. They're recognizing them. They're sensing the energetic presence. They're even feeling, they're observing their own energetic tendencies, if you will, as they're occurring. The difference is entirely coming into that space of not being reactive to them, right? And we see even now that for a lot of the energy in that modality, being able to navigate through and do that, it's hard, right? Because we see even now, especially if these are energies that are in the heart of the divine union and they're hitting these sensitivities, you're going through these sensitive moments, you can even see and navigate your own tendencies as you do so. But these energies, what are they doing? They're working to energetically suppress them for the sake of being able to energetically protect the counterpart. Right? That's that moment that, again, feels like that sense. And that's why the energy in the heart of the divine union can do this, because it's not that moment of feeling that anxiety coming up and wanting to run from it. It's that moment of recognizing, being like, I know that anxiety is coming up, but I'm going to continue to trust that energetic process. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union frequency right now, this is not that place. This is that moment of feeling the sense, feeling the serenity of someone seeing that energetic weakness point, feeling that like that cringe point, and someone saying, I will be very careful with that going forward. I'm sorry if I brushed up against something I didn't know was there. I can be more energetically mindful of that going forward. That is the energy that's building into the heart of energetic healing, because that's the energy that is feeling the mindfulness. It's of someone else's wound, but immediately seeing the energy that is working to heal it. Or not, I don't want to say heal it, but not necessarily heal it, but giving it the distance it needs is that sign of building towards that path of one day potentially energetically healing it. Because that's that moment that it's like not someone coming into that place of recognizing a sensitive space and then like utilizing it to serve an energetic purpose. It's that moment of saying like, I'm going to be very conscientious with that. I'm going to cherish that. Almost recognizing and saying, I understand that the reason the wound probably formed was that someone pushed forward at a time that you wanted them to step back. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hierophant in combination with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. A lot of that healing, like a lot of that wound that you're doing right now, I need to stress this is the energy in separation that is doing this work in separation. This is just happening in energetic separation, because we see even now for a lot of the energy for feminine, it's almost that moment. If this is feminine that has pushed some energy, like some healing outside of the self, they've moved some feminine feeling out of something of feeling like they need to change something within or something they have to be more discernful about going forward. That almost feels like a moment, as long as the feminine doesn't focus or fixate on the energy from the past, it can feel very energetically empowering, because that's that moment that you don't just take all of that energy that you have and just target it at some kind of past energy and being like, how dare you have injured me because of your unhealed inner child. This is the feminine energy. I was saying, it doesn't serve any energetic purpose to do that. I'm just going to let that be the standard that I hold as I continue forward. And that in a way is feminine energy looking back at the past with a sense of energetic compassion. Because that's the feminine energy saying, regardless of why things occurred the way that they did, I don't want to spend my time, effort, and energy trying to punish an unhealed inner child, because again, that's like almost giving energy to something that like, it's like it doesn't facilitate the healing. That's the feminine energy almost coming into that state or space of saying, I'm going to let this be that energetic breakthrough point. I'm going to let this be a moment that I just kind of utilize that as a standard that I set going forward, because that's that moment that feels effectively like the feminine saying, I'm committed to my own healing journey. I'm not committing my time, effort, and energy in trying to bring someone else to theirs. While masculine and feminine energy, like masculine energy in separation right now, this is you committing to your own healing journey. And a lot of that has to do with the masculine energy setting that path of prioritization. Saying, if I don't want to feel like the feminine energy is dragging me through every experience, I need to know where I want to go. If I want the feminine energy, like I recognize that the feminine energy that has a path of purpose, they're not going to be in a space or place of wanting to like navigate forward if I'm not sure what I want, or if I feel like my priorities are misaligned. So again, in a way, a lot of this masculine energy, this is a moment of coming into that point of maturation effectively due to that sense of looking back at the past version of self and saying, my priorities were misaligned. I was looking at things the wrong way. The more that I'm able to bring that forward towards those around me, is the moment that I stop projecting that work outward and I do that healing from within. Masculine and feminine energy. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. It's not that you're not moving forward without some sense of sadness or grief, right? Like it's still the fact that it's there, but it's not letting yourself feel overwhelmed by it. Right? That's what we see here. A lot of this like energy that's coming through right now with Mercury going direct is almost like having that point that feels like that path of empowerment, being able to carry the grief, but letting it really just kind of like reaffirm your path work forward. For feminine energy, it does feel a little energetically overwhelming to a certain extent. We even see that here. For feminine energy, like I'm going to get it here. Feminine is almost looking at this and saying it comes in waves. I'm getting that. Feminine saying it comes in waves. Sometimes feminine feels okay, sometimes feminine doesn't. But even feminine energy recognizing and saying, I know that that comes in waves. That in a way is also feminine energy recognizing and saying, I'm on my healing journey, and that healing journey isn't linear. Some days are going to be easier than others. Some days are going to be harder than others. As long as I'm moving in the right direction, that doesn't mean I'm moving in the wrong direction. I'm just leaving that accountability point for understanding and almost pre-assuming that that is the way I will energetically feel. And that in itself, like feminine energy, recognizing and identifying that within themselves is what is amplifying and continuing the feminine forward in this way. While for masculine energy in separation, that affirmation point, that moment of effectively recognizing and understanding. For a lot of the masculine energy, this feels like the path of energetic healing, particularly if you hold regret towards something from the past. Because this is either masculine on that past path work that's looking at some kind of bond that was damaged from feminine, but now understanding what you could do to restore that energetic bond. And that's either the masculine energy looking back at a past situation with an understanding of one's own priority shifting. And that's either the masculine energy going back into the past to be able to restore that type of energetic connection, or that is masculine energy that is reaffirming and saying, I'm going to make that lost moment. I'm going to make that lesson matter. I'm going to make it have value by taking it forward with me as I go. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our Hierophant in its reversal in combination with our Queen of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Three of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy. I'll put it this way. Okay, hold on. I back up a minute before I forgot to bring up this point. So the energy right now coming into divine union. That ability, that modality. Remember what I mentioned about the fact of feeling like the past was coming back up? A lot of that path work in terms of like the retrograde period. A lot of this, even now, for feminine energy coming into divine union, this is energetically healing. Because this is that moment. It's not that the feminine energy doesn't carry the weight of the energetic past with them. But again, seeing a space or place of almost carrying an energetic wound and having the masculine immediately be mindful, not become reactive to it, being conscientious of it. That is the feminine energy feeling that reaffirmation in relationality to the commitment going forward. Because that is the feminine energy that, again, feels the valuation of being in partnership with the masculine. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That feels like the affirmation of the feminine feeling the overwhelm and feeling like I don't have to be energetically perfect to be in alignment with masculine. I found an alignment where, and even when I show the masculine that I'm not energetically perfect, the masculine says that's perfect too. While for masculine, the same exact goes for the energy coming into divine union, having that modality of a feminine that's able to articulate, again, a feminine energy that instead of being reactive with their emotions is able to articulate about like places or spaces that are delicate for the feminine. The feminine energy that just doesn't let the emotionality become something that they subject others to, but something that the feminine is really able to articulate on. That's a masculine that looks to feminine and says, thank you. You make it easy not to misstep. You make it easy to be able to avoid areas that may create conflict. So both of these energies appreciating the conscientiousness by which the other carries their wounds. While for masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union frequency right now, this ability, this adaptability, the ability to finally address a wound that you may have been carrying, that is the exception to the energetic rule. That is building even deeper into the heart of the divine union, even for energy at the heart of the divine union, because that's almost allowing you to go into that path of healing through which you know you could not necessarily heal with anybody beyond the counterpart through whom you trust so implicitly. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Queen of Wands. We've got here our Three of Wands in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is the only thing that, like, these are the areas that feel like they're a little bit energetically difficult, right? it is having a different impact on masculine and feminine. For feminine, it's really hard because you're navigating a space. This could even be feminine energy navigating spaces and basically saying to masculine, I don't know how I'm going to energetically feel about something. If you're having conversations about something that you haven't conversed about, if you're touching something that is delicate, that you want to heal, but you've never navigated healing, this is the feminine almost saying to the masculine, I don't know what my energetic reaction will be, because that's a feminine in a sense, almost giving that sense of energetic leniency to themselves in what they can foresee energetically versus what they're going to be able to experience in the tangible. But even now, the ability of feminine to articulate on that is the gift that the masculine is receiving from the feminine, because that's a feminine that when they say, I don't know, they don't mean I don't know. They mean I don't know because I can't anticipate how I might energetically feel about something, right? So we see even now that that's a lot of the masculine appreciating that the feminine being able to articulate when we see something here. This isn't feminine energy that gets energetically confused and can't communicate it. This is the feminine energy that's doing that work of saying, I can only understand what I recognize and have experienced. And if the feminine is moving into some modality where they haven't recognized or experienced something, feminine energies own, like feminine's like, I don't have the map for that. I haven't gone here before, right? I don't know what that is. So that's a feminine almost saying to a certain extent, like, I can only see what I can see. And the rest is like, what will be, will be. Like, that's the energy of the feminine basically saying to the masculine, almost again, like almost feminine, like navigating all the possibilities energetically on how they might feel, right? Masculine, again, deep in the heart of the energy. This is feminine, masculine energy, potentially healing some old wounds from the feminine. Like this is old, I told you, masculine energy right now, going through a lot of energetic healing, potentially a lot of inner child wounds that are happening right now. So this is potentially a lot of, I won't even say like even this could be some mother wounds coming up. This could be some old feminine experiences. This could be a lot of energetic unpacking that's happening here. And a lot of it has to do, and again, I just keep saying a lot of the masculine energy, navigating those spaces and places, feeling the anxiety of potentially places or spaces where feminine wasn't able to articulate their energetic needs to a certain extent. So we see even now that for these energies, the ability to communicate is so vital and important, because that's that moment of looking towards someone and saying, say what you mean and mean what you say, right? Both of these energies, it's almost saying to one another as they do this work and healing, saying as long as we are authentic, as long as we are energetically honest, as long as we mean what we say, that is that moment that feels like that regulation point in navigating something energetically sensitive and feeling like you can trust in the other to articulate how they authentically feel. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is the energy that is feeling the amplification of feminine seeing a masculine that is energetically sensitive, that doesn't take the sensitivity as of the feminine having a boundary personally, that doesn't take it as an offense, it doesn't take it as an affront, that doesn't allow themselves to feel like that sense of like, frustration and anger at a feminine having a limitation moment. That's the feminine feeling the security of a masculine. Because that's the feminine almost again seeing the possibility of where a wound was created and seeing that alternative course of action. Seeing the masculine coming into a space of being energetically mindful is like what builds the feminine into that sense or that space of truly being able to trust the masculine. Whereas masculine, you seeing a feminine that's able to articulate upon their wounds, like articulating upon their sensitivities, not subjecting you to their emotions, but being very quick on expressing and saying like, here are places on the map you can't go. We don't go here. We don't go there. We don't go here. I'm happy to tell you why. I've got a long story on why we don't go in those spaces. For masculine, seeing a feminine that's able to do that on their own emotional landscape feels like a relief for the masculine, because it's the masculine that says, I never have to guess with you what's occurring. You'll just tell me how you feel. And that's masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now. This is a lot of the energy in separation that is doing that hard work in relationality to unpacking how you energetically feel. And for feminine, I told you, it comes in waves. This is feminine energy already anticipating and being like, I feel good today. Tomorrow, I might be an absolute wreck. I'm feeling empowered today. Tomorrow, I might feel vulnerable again. Feminine energy is almost reminding themselves something. I'm remind myself what I'm doing right now to keep myself in this modality, because I know inevitably that I might fall back into that other feeling. But the feminine energy is almost saying to themselves, going, that's okay. As long as I've done it once, I can come back here again. This is the feminine energy building that map for themselves, saying, what am I doing right now? I need to remember. This feminine energy in separation going, I need to remember this. I need to remember this. I need to write this down. I need to write this down. I need to write this down. A lot of feminine energy going, I need to write this down. I can't lose how I got here. I can't lose how I got here. While for masculine energy in separation right now, this is the masculine energy effectively, energetically in separation right now. This is hard for masculine energy in separation. Because for a masculine energy in separation right now, this is a lot of that pathwork of purpose coming back into play. Because this is that energy of the masculine, again, feeling, where do we build upon the heart of regret? Regret motivating us into a heightened degree of purpose often has to do with past energy of the feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. And a lot of the masculine energy is feeling that energetic sense right now of the past and the present coming into play. And this could either be looking towards a feminine from the past in a new way. When we shift our priorities, what happens when we shift our priorities? When we shift our priorities, we not only shift our own personal priorities, we shift the way we energetically see those around us. So this could be a masculine. If this is masculine, looking back at the past version of self and having notes, what could be happening for a lot of the masculine energies, you're looking back at the past, and not only are you seeing yourself in a different way, you're seeing the energy that was around you in a different way. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, that ability of seeing something from the past in a different light is not only just happening within yourself, but in the energy of the past that you're looking back towards. So again, this is either that moment of masculine trying to identify which direction to move towards. If this is the masculine trying to come into that pathwork of restoration and reconciliation with the feminine energy that they feel like they may have looked at in the wrong energetic way, or if this is the masculine energy that is utilizing that pathwork as a valuable lesson to take with them as they get motivated forward in this way. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between the Queen of Wands in combination with our Five of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Pentacles. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. The nice thing that we see here is, and this is the beauty, this is Mercury going direct on us. This is just the energy of Mercury going direct. Because what we really see that's happening here is a lot of this energy. This is just motivating the path forward. This is feminine energy right now in separation. That's almost saying like to themselves, the past is the past. The present is the present. And even now, like that sense of the feminine energy, what is the feminine energy saying? Well, I might have moments that I feel bad again about the past. And feminine's like, I'm accepting that. Because that's the feminine energy almost saying, I'm feeling the abandonment wound. What am I feeling the abandonment wound on? I'm feeling the abandonment wound of wanting somebody to come forward with intentionality and authenticity in the past who didn't. Like that's the feminine energy just looking at something and being like, I am recovering from a moment or modality where I feel like someone should have given me something that they did not give me. And that's a feminine energy that when they experience that and feel that, that's that moment that feels energetically healing from the feminine. Because that's the feminine energy not wanting to teach that energy an energetic lesson for it. That's not the feminine energy holding on to bitterness. That's a feminine energy saying, I will utilize that. And I will maintain that as a standard that I hold forward as I proceed forward. I'm going to let that energetically, I'm going to let that wound serve an energetic purpose. It's not going to energetically hurt me. I'm going to let it serve as an energetic lesson that allows me to find what I'm seeking, right? I told you, abandonment wounds are not necessarily completely useless. They serve a purpose as well. So even the feminine energy being able to re-articulate upon the abandonment wound and say, I have a right to be frustrated, but this is almost a feminine energy and this is almost a feminine energy in separation saying, I'm very frustrated at someone. First and foremost for myself, for allowing myself to have those lower standards that may have energetically allowed someone not to come forward in the right way towards me in the first place. And that's not the feminine energy coming into a victimization point with that. That is the feminine energy feeling and saying, I understand now. Like, I'm taking that as an empowering, energetic lesson that will build my sense of strength and empowerment going forward. That is the gift of a difficult lesson, right? That is the gift of the difficult lesson, because that's the energy of the feminine saying, never again. Never again. You know? Well, for the masculine energy in separation, this change of prioritization, this could be a moment that, again, it feels somewhat energetically triggering to a certain extent, because for the masculine energy in separation, if your priorities have energetically changed, you may be feeling the expansiveness of the abandonment wound, because what happens when our priorities change? Did you lose something? You feel like you lost something? You could be feeling like you lost something. You could be feeling like you lost something, right? And so for the masculine energy, feeling that abandonment wound coming through, that feeling of potentially having energetically lost something, is again either reaffirming the energetic commitment in recognizing that when we change our priorities, it suddenly feels like we lost something very valuable potentially in the past, that reaffirms our energetic commitments in the future by, again, either masculine energy moving towards a path of restoration towards feminine, identifying and understanding what those priorities are, or that is masculine energy that is in separation, that is reaffirming their own energetic commitment to building forward towards that ideal aspiration of partnership, utilizing the lessons or the feeling of energetic regret from the past to fortify their energetic lesson going forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Three of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with Knight of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy moving, and the energy, I'm rushing ahead of myself. For the masculine and feminine energy right now that's coming into the divine union frequency, this is the energetic equivalent that we're seeing here in relationality to the fact of the feminine feeling. What happens to the feminine energy in the modality of someone moving forward towards you in the way that you would ideally aspire and desire? Unfortunately, it can feel very energetically triggering, right? Because this is what we mean by the words bittersweet. Because what happens in the moment or modality that someone gives you what you aspire and desire? Does it remind you of all those moments that something was not given in that way? It can feel energetically overwhelming for the feminine to receive that, because that's that moment that even when something is good, it can feel energetically triggering because it reminds you of when things were not. While for masculine energy, in coming into divine union, the ability, the same exact is true. The same is true. When masculine energy is experiencing feminine that's able to speak very clearly on their needs or what they don't want or do want, masculine is also reminded of all those spaces and places wherein, again, masculine may have felt the frustration or anxiety of having to try to serve towards feminine, and a feminine not being able to articulate what they need or want, that can create that space of energetic confusion for masculine, that feels like the masculine's always feeling like they've lost something, or they've energetically failed something, right? So we see even now, the moment of experiencing something can feel energetically bittersweet because it almost echoes back to all the places that you didn't necessarily receive something. Whereas for masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union, this is navigating directly towards those spaces. And this is why it's such delicate work, because you're not avoiding these things. You're going straight into the heart of them. You're walking towards them. You're saying, we're going into the cave. We're going into the cave. These are the energies that are just going into those difficult conversations, all for the sake of truly trying to energetically heal something. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Swords and its reversal in combination with our Three of Wands and its reversal. We've got here our Knight of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the heart of the divine union frequency. Remember how I said there's a lot of this energy right now? It feels like it's very delicate. It feels like it's very sensitive. It feels like it's very energetically hard to do. And that's because there's a big question mark around it. Now, when I say a question mark, I need to stress this. It's not that something is energetically confusing. It's not that something is energetically confusing. It is the fact that something that we see here is energetically confusing because you don't know what will occur. That's the difference between something that is confusing by creating obfuscation versus something that is unknown because it has not been energetically explored. So we see even now for masculine and feminine energy that is proceeding forward in the heart of the divine union frequency, navigating these difficulties, navigating these energetic hurdles. It feels like delicate work. You're being very energetically mindful because just as the feminine is almost trying to articulate to the masculine, this is literally feminine energy that's very good at articulating their expressions of their emotions. But feminine's almost saying to masculine, I cannot predict what I have not experienced. I cannot predict what I have not experienced, right? And even now, the masculine appreciating the feminine being able to articulate in that way. This is masculine saying, I do not know what to provide in what I cannot see. I do not know how I will react to what I cannot anticipate. I do not know what will come forth in me because I have never seen it. Right? So we see both of these energies being mindful to one another in those spaces by almost saying to the other, I don't know how these conversations will impact me. I don't know, because that's that moment that feels like you've moved forward towards something and you don't have anything experientially to be able to articulate what that could be. Right? So we see even now for a lot of the energy going through this, there may be a lot of it may feel like you're talking about a lot of unknown variables, but it has to do with the unknown variables of the self. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency, the ability not to energetically touch something, the opposite of what we're seeing that the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency is doing right now. That is the amplification point in feeling something that is empowering right now. Because that is that moment that we're effectively or energetically seeing for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency, not having a moment, not taking someone's sensitivity on something, being able to articulate on sensitive subjects, being energetically mindful, creating that distance. That is what is amplifying the energy that's feeling that trust process, even in a moment that a trigger is hit. Because again, feminine saying to the masculine, and this is funny because this is feminine energy saying, it's a sensitive subject, but I'd like to talk about it. Right? It's like the feminine always saying, it's sensitive, but I'm happy to talk about the sensitivity, right? That's feminine going, it's a no zone, but I'm happy to elaborate on the no zone, right? Like that's again, and masculine, if that's happening, being like, I don't like to energetically talk about it. I don't like to energetically talk about it. Why? Because masculine is working through their abandonment wounds, and masculine is already recognizing when you hit a sore subject with masculine, being like, there's a part, it brings something out of me. It's hard, like my army comes running out. It's hard for me to control that energy, right? So both of these energies doing that work in helping someone recognize and say, these are the hard places on my map. These are the hard places on my map. And what are these energies doing? Are they reacting? Are they provoking each other through them? No, they're showing each other where they are and then telling someone how to conduct appropriately around them. That is the moment that feels like the act of security, even at a moment of realizing and recognizing another's energetic weakness. Because that's that moment of someone saying like, okay, cool, they're on my map now too. I will be careful in traversing those areas. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. A lot of the energy in separation, doing that work in relationality to building upon or working through a lot of those feelings of energetic frustration, particularly in alignment to the past. For feminine energy, again, if this is feminine energy, releasing any of the energy of the past, any of that moment or modality that we're seeing. This is feminine energy that is almost, again, remember that point? Remember how we were just talking about energetic confusion? This is the opposite of that. This is the opposite of that. This is how the feminine energy is navigating forward. Because if there's feminine energy looking back at the past version of masculine and saying, I don't know why they never brought that forth. this is the feminine energy being like, there's countless reasons. Now that I'm seeing something from a different perspective, there's countless reasons I can imagine as to why something occurred the way it did. But you know what? The feminine saying, I'm not going to express my time wondering why. Because again, there's a difference between the confusion that can be held and not being able to see the future clearly, right? There's a moment that we can look at and say, like that unknown variable that we see that a lot of the energy moving in the heart of the divine union is having, and saying, I don't know what comes next, versus the energy of the feminine saying, the frustration being there is an energetic answer there. Feminine's almost like there is an energetic answer there. There is someone who could give me the answer to that. And that's the feminine feeling the reaffirmation, if you will, of letting go of energy that hasn't given them that clarification or that answer. Because even if that's an energy that's doing so because of a lack of fear or intentionality of purpose, that's the feminine saying, either way, the person who has the answer to that isn't bringing it forth, and it's not my responsibility to try to get it out of them. Like that's a feminine saying, the masculine energy that's coming towards the feminine with clarity and intentionality. The feminine's like, I don't have to look for it. I don't have to ask for it. I'm just going to energetically receive it. And that's what's helping the feminine navigate any of those healings, because that's the feminine saying, I'm allowed to feel frustrated about that. I'm allowed to feel angry. I'm allowed to feel bitterness, but I'm not going to let it overwhelm me. I'm just going to accept it. Masculine energy in separation, if these are modalities wherein, again, you're looking back at the past and you're understanding why you were experiencing some of the reactivity of the feminine, you're having a better sense. Well, congratulations, you're starting to heal your own feminine self. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, that modality of moving forward, as it were, feeling that sense of recognizing and having that prioritization point, the only thing that feels difficult is once we have that prioritization point, we can feel very frustrated the fact that we didn't have that priority before, right? Because that can be that moment that, just like I said, it comes to the feminine in waves. It may feel frustrating for the masculine in that modality, because that's masculine feeling that sense of frustration in wishing that you would recognize or prioritize something sooner. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, remembering and recognizing, you're never energetically out of time. You're exactly where you need to be. Anything that took you to the place that you are now wasn't time or effort and energy that was lost. It's all a gift in terms of helping you recognize your own priorities going forward. That is that moment that can energetically empower a lot of the masculine by being able to reaffirm and set that pathwork going forward. So we see even now some of the masculine energy navigating some of that expressed feeling of feeling energetically like you may have waited too long, or you didn't come upon this as like when you effectively aspired and desired to. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy going through that, don't let that be a moment that like that anxiety and fear overwhelms you. Let that be that moment that kind of builds your own pathwork and purpose. Because we see even now like this could be the moment of the masculine, like, you know, having that sense of woulda, coulda, shoulda should always create that sense of saying, I will. All right. The only reason to say woulda, coulda, shoulda is if the answer is I will, right? Because if not, you just kind of get caught in that echo chamber of saying I would have. There has to be a moment that transforms into I will. And we see even now like a lot of the masculine energy is almost reaffirming by saying like feeling that abandonment wound around some kind of lost energetic opportunity or some kind of missed energetic connection, or even potentially feeling like you didn't prioritize something when you should have. Now is almost that moment that creates that sense of affirmation saying, and now I will. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Wands, Swords in its reversal, in combination with our Page of Pentacles in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. I love to see this guy coming up. We got here our Fool energy. Exactly. What happens? What's that moment? What happens in those moments when we look back and we say, look, this is almost the masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, reaffirming to themselves and saying, if there's anything here where the masculine feels like that weight of frustration, feels like that weight of anxiety, feels like that weight of looking back on something and feeling like you energetically missed some kind of opportunity, letting that abandonment wound come up, almost reaffirming and saying to themselves, much like I'm saying now, the best time to plant a tree was like probably yesterday. The next best time is right now, right? That ability of understanding that, the masculine energy, looking at that moment and saying to oneself, if I'm carrying energetic regret, well, fortunately for me, the time I can fix that is right now. Letting the present reaffirm and make that point of regret valuable. That is what we see as a lot of the energy of the masculine going forward right now. Because now not only do we see masculine energy taking that energetic leap of faith, if you will, but we also see that this is masculine energy that is further like focusing on the energetic commitment as well. So this is that double work of, again, feeling the intentionality of purpose, experiencing that valuation point, but leading towards feminine with intentionality and authenticity. So this is really beautiful. We see a lot of the masculine energy moving forward in this way. Feminine energy in separation, this is the feminine energy, allowing that easement in terms of holding grief, saying, I don't want to sit and be feeling like I'm holding grief for some kind of past energetic connection. I'm going to take that leap of faith forward and seek out the masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, that what it feels most aligned to. The energy that leads towards me with authenticity and intentionality of purpose, I'm not going to be able to energetically miss it. It's going to be right there. So we see even now these energies are, again, very set to come into that point of convergence. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that energetic equivalent of feeling the joy of moving forward towards with someone, but sharing the same desire, sharing the same prioritization point. And that's why we see even now a lot of that energy, feeling the weight and the significance of, again, recognizing and feeling like you have matching priorities. These are energies coming into divine union right now, that the reason they feel like something is energetically easy is because they share the same energetic priorities. And when we share the same energetic priorities, things just feel much more fluid. Things just feel much more easy, because that's that moment of trusting someone else's energetic judgment, because you know that they're always prioritizing the same things that you are prioritizing. So we see even now that in itself is allowing for a lot of this energy, even through a lot of these hurdles, to feel that sense of it's not that everything's energetically perfect, but you know that your priorities are in alignment, that allows for that sense of being able to take that moment of building, taking those leaps of faith. While, as again, the energy in the heart of the divine union right now, the ability of having the exception to the rule, allowing someone to have that conversation, moving towards something that feels like there's a wound there, something that is energetically heavy, but taking that ability to really lean into it and see how you will energetically feel. It feels a little bit like uncertain. We see that there's a lot of unknown variables here, but the energy is experiencing it in the same way. They're both invested in that journey. They're both committed towards the unknown nature, the unknown variable that we experience when we move into deeper levels of healing. This is energy that is committing to the unknown, but also saying, being very mindful energetically of every step on the way. Like, that's how you do something that you haven't done before. You are intentional and you accept the unknown variable. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Final card in our 5-card spread for today, between our Knight of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Fool card. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. I'm not surprised to see it. We got here the devil energy. Masculine and feminine energy that's in the heart of the divine union frequency. The difficulty or hurdle or challenge here to a certain extent is, again, when we navigate, I told you these energies, they're moving into the heart of the healing, right? I told you, we're going into the cave. Like, the ability to go into something right now and recognizing that it's energetically difficult. What did I say was happening? These are energies that are almost already energetically warning one another and saying, this is energetically difficult. I'm coming into that state or space that this is an unknown, like what happens when there's unknown variables. These are energies that are working in the heart of the divine union frequency to navigate unhealed coping mechanisms, bad modalities of thoughts, unhealed karmic connections. Where did those wounds form? I just laid them out. That's where they formed. So we see even now the energy being observant, recognizing that, but working very fastidiously to navigate forward in that work, in the state, and for the direct reason to heal. When we have to heal, we have to confront what is unhealed, right? Matt, and this is the energy that's doing the best that they can, that even if it feels like it's an unknown territory, they're guiding someone through as much as they can in what they know and recognize, right? That is how we navigate something that is energetically sensitive, but in a way that we try to mitigate our own triggers in the process. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union frequency. What did I tell you was happening right now? This is energy that has these sensitivities. They have these vulnerabilities, right? These energies, are they subjecting one another to them? No. They are articulating on them. And that ability of looking at something and saying, we're going to put an energetic pin in that, is the moment of someone saying, you're bringing something unhealed into the divine union frequency. We always do. Anything that we consider a trigger, anything that we consider a wound, that is us bringing something unhealed into the energetic connection. Now, are these energies going, no, we have to fix that right now? Like, no, they haven't built the trust necessary. In fact, some of those wounds potentially formed because someone overran an energetic boundary. So we see even now that moment of saying, I'm going to be conscientious. I'm going to hold your wounds like I would hold mine, and create some space and navigate it the way that you tell me that you want it navigated, not the way I feel it should be. That is the love or the energetic compassion that says to someone, I don't love you because you're perfect. I love you because you're not. Even when you have shown me places and spaces that you are not perfect, the way that you navigate your own difficulties, the way that you work through your own dark shadow work, I accept those as well. Because that's the energy of someone saying to the other, there's nothing about you that I don't care about. There's nothing about you that I don't appreciate. Because even when those darker moments come up, they are nothing, you are also. You don't allow that you don't allow that shadow work, you don't allow that negativity to overwhelm a circumstance or situation. You do that work internally that always allows for an energetic easement point. And I trust you. I trust you not just when things go well. I trust you when I know things are not going well. That's what we say to one another when we say, I trust you. That's not assuming everything's energetically perfect. That's assuming and saying, I know how you navigate those difficulties. And even in the darkness, even if I can't see, I trust you leading me through it. Masculine and feminine energy. I told you, going into the cave. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now. One of the things that we're energetically seeing is this is the energy that's working through their own energetic shadows, because we're recognizing and identifying that for the feminine energy, it's not the feminine being like feeling like, this is not feminine being like, oh good, I'm not upset about anything that's ever happened before. Everything's fine. I'm just like completely healed. No, look at this. This is feminine energy that they feel that frustration. They feel that they feel a lot of that connect. Like this is the feminine. I told you, this is feminine energy moving some energy outside of the self, and that's the feminine energy that feels the frustration in doing so. Feels like they're healing from something instead of trying to heal something within. And so even now we see that that's a feminine energy that says, I don't want to obsess. I don't want to obsess over feeling the frustration and anger from the past experiences. I don't want that to overshadow my path forward. And that's the feminine energy saying, I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to heal energetically from even trying to have it energetically heal from someone, right? Like that's the energy of the feminine saying, I am working on that process, but I can do two things at once. I can recognize that I'm energetically healing even as I proceed forward. While for masculine energy, in separation right now, your own ability of looking back on your past path work and feeling like your priorities have changed, this is very energetically potentially difficult, because this is looking back at the past experiences and saying, what happens when you look back and you realize that your priorities were potentially in the wrong place? It can often feel like you want to vilify yourself. It can be those moments that you put too much harsh judgment on yourself, because your own inability to prioritize what you need to prioritize can feel like there's a lot there that you're healing. But your own ability to recognize and mitigate that, to say, I understand that that past version of self was doing the best that they could at the time. I'm not going to become self-righteous on my past version of self. I'm just going to let it motivate me forward. I'm going to let that amplify that direction. I'm going to let that help me I'm going to leave those shadows behind me, and I'm going to set my focus on what I prioritize. That is the journey of the masculine, being able to energetically heal. And a lot of it is letting go of any of the lessons, or what you might characterize as the mistakes from the past, because that's that moment of you forgiving yourself. And through that act of forgiving yourself, anything becomes energetically possible. Because then you're committed. When we come into that space of forgiving ourselves, anything is energetically possible, because that means that you have the ability to change anything at any given moment. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is Ace of Swords. Nobody get righteous right now. Nobody get righteous. Nobody get righteous right now, okay, is what we're seeing. It's like, it's just, I'm just going to tell you right now, because the thing about, I'm telling you right now, this activation energy, if you will, like this energy of coming direct out of all of this heaviness, this can create those spaces of places of feeling very energetically righteous, right? A lot of this like get up and go motivational thing, I'm going to say it again. If you're feeling like that, make sure that you're moving forward with intentionality. Make sure that you're utilizing that as path work of clarity and purpose, because that what we want to avoid, especially with the Ace of Swords and its reversal, is anything that feels energetically vindictive, right? Because that's that moment of feeling that excitement or that amplification of feeling that pathwork of the self can often create that state or space of feeling vindicated, that sometimes it moves us out of energetic alignment, because that could be articulating on doing like the right thing for the wrong reasons. So let's just be like mindful of that to a certain extent right now, because we see even now, even like for the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency, a lot of that sensitivity, right? We see that's navigating a lot of that reactiveness, that uncertainty on how one might energetically react, that almost requires that level or degree of mitigation. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency right now, that same energetic signature that we're seeing of, again, having navigated or found that the problem here is that for the energy that's experienced those soft spots in the other, you have a different perspective on how to manage it, right? Because feminine wants to talk about it, masculine doesn't. So being able to recognize the difference between what you want to do versus what someone else wants to do right now is really important. While for the masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, I told you, the feminine energy trying to channel that energy into a sense of confidence and excitement going forward, as opposed to directing that towards the past, that could feel very like oppositional right now, because that's feminine energy still trying to like navigate forward in a way that feels like it is productive and positive, instead of becoming what feels like potentially more vindictive towards whatever feels like you're coming into that healing cycle from. While for masculine energy in separation right now, your own sense of energetic frustration towards circumstances or situations, even in relation to the past sense of self, this is not a place to be beating yourself up right now, masculine, right? Let that energy be one that it builds upon your own excitement in terms of being able to like motivate forward, as opposed to letting it feel like you're kind of like, thank you, instead of feeling like you're kind of like energetically like, harming yourself by feeling all of that energetic regret. Again, remember, changing and prioritization is a beautiful thing, so long as you embrace the fact that you haven't always felt like this, and you have to be mindful about how you may have felt in the past. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I'd also like to notify you guys, if you haven't joined us yet, we had our first tarot class last week. Thank you to everybody who was a part of it. It was an absolutely wonderful class. I'm so excited to be partaking in this new journey with you. Our next class will be on May 15th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. Our previous class was a focus and concentration on the Fool card. This next class will be concentrating on the Magician. Becoming a part of that class program, it's a monthly program. All you need to do is become a paid subscriber to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your subscription to my Substack will grant you access to the month's worth of classes. And if you missed our first class, I've got some great news for you because it is recorded. And if you become a subscriber, you'll also have access to all of the recordings of the previous classes as well as the course materials. So if you join now, you can still catch that class. Also, you'll have access to a one-on-one chat where you can talk to me about, or anyone in the classwork, about anything that you may want to ask about or investigate in relationality to what we're learning. Also, if you become a founding member to my Substack, included in your year's worth of classes will also include a free one-on-one mentorship reading with me, wherein we can assess where you are on your own tarot journey, and I can give you the best pieces of insight in terms of how I feel you can move forward and how to best utilize the classes as you go forward. The thing about these classes that I appreciate is that I tried to make them that would be useful and helpful for both the absolute brand spanking new tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. So it's got something there for everyone. Again, thank you to everybody who's already joining us on that journey, and I hope that you will join us as well. Also, even if you can't or you don't want to become a member of the paid subscription, I would encourage you to follow me over on Substack, graystrega.substack.com. I'll be putting a lot of notifications there in terms of new offerings, new course materials, etc. I really am excited to be moving forward with you in this way, and I hope you'll join us there. That said, I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other, and we will do this again tomorrow.